I have quite the sore throat, so excuse me if I sound odd, but I've been putting off recording this for far too long. Originally, I'd wanted to explore what ERAM is, and what it did and why. Specifically, which of the four layers of reality did it come from in the Matryoshka doll that is Deltarune. But I can't. Not yet. Because it's 5 layers of reality, not 4. In my last video, I went over why I think the name of the arcade game the Mantle holder is found in is called Mantle, as in the Eggman. Some people rightfully pointed out in the comments how it could be Mantle, which would still match up with the letters of the hidden word. To save a lot of time, yeah, it looks pretty likely that the word is Mantle and not Mantail. And just as an aside, breaking from the script for a second, at the time, nobody was quite sure, and it wasn't a topic people were talking too much about in the community, but now it's pretty solidly changed over to most people believing it's Mantle. That being said, Mantle as a title clearly still alludes to Mantail, for reasons which I explained in the last video, such as man country equaling the underground, Mantle equaling Undertale, Mantail equaling Undertale. The Eggman's 2 zones in Chap 3 and 4 are set in a Mantle-like location, and, Eggman Mantail. The description of that video has been edited to clarify this. The connection between the game and the Eggman is still very much present, and this type of double meaning is something our dear Mr. Fox loves, as we all know. However, referring to the original arcade game as Mantail, because calling it Mantle will get confusing when describing the Shadow Mantle, and this video is already going to be saying Mantle a lot. Take a shot every time I say man if you want to go into a liquor-induced coma, by the way. Mantle, or Legend of Tenna, is the lowest layer of fiction within Deltarune so far. Those 5 layers in Deltarune are reality, the depths, where Gaster and Desc are, the light world, the dark world, and now Mantle. You could argue that Mantle is a game within a game, and not its own layer of reality in that game. But I think I can prove it is its own reality. I will be referring to all characters from Mantle or Legend of Tenna as Mantlers, unless it gets confusing and we need to differentiate between the two, because I think it works with both possible titles, and it's cool. The 2 possibilities for the Mantlers are, number 1, they are entirely pre-programmed, more metaphor than people. Or number 2, some of them are sentient people. Well, it's clear that sometimes characters in Mantle or Legend of Tenna are simply being piloted by a controller, by a Darkener. There are several cases where characters specifically act without being controlled. At the end of playing Mantle, Mantler Chris chooses to both walk off and return, not as an input from us, the player, but from little Chris themselves. Before then, the White Mage, Mantler Noel, seems to have knowledge of where to go in the game, us being told to follow them before sacrificing them. Perhaps that was just something pre-programmed in them, to act like a guide NPC. Though, it's very murky waters here. When ERAM speaks, their opinion changes whether or not we are on a weird route. Though of course they may be the exception to how Mantlers act rather than the rule. So we can't say for certain it means that all Mantlers are like them, because they may not even be a Mantler. During the Legend of Tenna, Dark World Tenna says that things have been leaking into his version of the game, things he doesn't understand. This leak is almost certainly from the original game, Mantle, that Legend of Tenna was built upon. ERAM appears in Legend of Tenna foreshadowing themselves in Mantle, likely being one of these leaks. As Legend of Tenna is built upon Mantle, it's sort of like the multiple Dark Worlds we see in the Church, modified versions of fictional worlds that change depending on the author. Actually, it also reminds me of Dark Worlds in another way. Dark Worlds interact with each other before they should have existed at all. Think of things like Jevil knowing about Queen, or Spamton's history with Tenna. What if more than just paralleling them? The Legend of Tenna and Mantle straight up work like Dark Worlds. Dark Worlds within Dark Worlds. Not literally, of course, because we see what happens when you make a fountain in a Dark World. Thanks, Roaring Fraud. But Mantle is literally fiction created by fiction, just as the Dark Worlds have history before they should. So does Mantle and Legend of Tenna. During Mini Tenna's conversation of Chris, they have clear history. And Tenna's monologue further implies a history of Spamton, a Mantler Spamton. I've seen many people assume that when Mantler Tenna talks about his deal with little Chris, they assume this is pointing out how Dark World Tenna has knowledge of Light World Chris creating his TV land, and Tenna is fulfilling some bargain on his end for doing so. And I think it is likely correct, but it's clearly not one-to-one. How Dark World Tenna acts around Chris and how Mantler Tenna acts around little Chris is completely different. And of course, Light World Chris doesn't kill Tenna, even in the worst route. While Mantler Chris does. Later, Mantler Tenna appears again when Darkener Tenna captures the Fun Gang. But that's not Mantler Tenna. That's Legend of Tenna Tenna. Tenna. Holy crap, don't be fucked. I didn't do this to us. Might as well add a depths version of Tenna at this point. Excuse me. Ugh. It can't get any more confusing. Bottom line, this means that Legend of Tenna Tenna and Mantler Tenna, there are two different Tennas. Say that 10 times fast. Also, considering Dark World Tenna doesn't want Mantle to be shown to Light World Chris, it would be downright weird if he was piloting the Tenna in Mantle, the original game. Which means Mantler Tenna must have been pre-programmed to do that monologue, which feels a little odd, or he's sentient. Actually, when the Fun Game is captured, what is going on at the Legend of Tenna? Why is it on fire? It seems to depict Mini Tenna going on a no mercy route rampage. Clearly another parallel to the weird route, with the Darkener Tenna forcing the game character to kill his fellows. But why is it present in Legend of Tenna and not in Mantle? Hell, isn't it strange that the game characters run away from Tenna in Legend of Tenna in the first place? How combat functions in the Legend of Tenna is unclear. It seems to be that the Fun Gang is just attacked by a Darkener in TV land normally, because it pops us out to the normal battle screen, and Darkener Tenna seems to exist on these battle screens. My assumption is that Darkener Tenna is just getting the pilots of the in-game enemies to get off their core controllers and jump us. But in that case, why do the in-game characters run from us? We're already captured. Tenna's minions are the ones in control here, and yet all of the Mantlers actively run away from Mini Tenna and attempt to avoid us. Fundamentally, there seems to be a difference between the Mantlers' actions and their pilots' actions. In fact, whether or not we spare the Darkeners we fight, their Mantler equivalent disappears afterwards as if killed. I guess the Darkeners puppeting their equivalent in TV land could be making their characters run because Tenna is a drama queen and order them to do so. This could not have been pre-programmed before because Tenna did not think things would go this way. Never wanted things to go as they have. Always wanted the group to be having fun playing his TV land game. But here's my question. Why do the quiz creatures run? We've seen them talk before, and they don't have a problem giving out quizzes. They wouldn't be programmed to run. Again, Tenna wasn't expecting all of this. We don't fight them in the Dark World. We just take a quiz that Tenna directs. On other boards, we acquire them after defeat. Now, they just disappear, like all the other enemies. There is no quiz enemy equivalent to the Dark World. They are a Legend of Tenna only being. They don't have a pilot like the other Mantlers, and they likely don't have a pilot controlling them. Why run? Well, they may have been running because they wanted to, needed to, because they wanted not to be destroyed by Mini Tenna's wrath. Their home is being destroyed and they are scared. And from a narrative standpoint, I don't think it's crazy to suggest that they may be sentient. Deltarune, as a game, already has characters that are fictional, that are very much intelligent, and have feelings and wants. What's another layer? But for even more solid evidence, let's touch on the Eggman in more detail. I'd always thought it was a little strange to have a figure that is so similar to Gaster in so many ways, but doesn't seem to be Gaster at all. There's a lot of evidence separating them, from vocal tics to memory issues. Watch this video by Spooky Dude if you're curious. I think it still holds up today. The Eggman is confused and forgetful. Gaster is supportive of our choices. The Eggman wants us to make the choice that benefits him. Gaster is the man that speaks in hands, and the Eggman is the man that speaks from just out of our vision. Hell, if Gaster has anything to do with our narration, he may very well be the one blocking us from seeing the Eggman. But why? Why have two different mystery men, with differences so unclear, for the longest time most people thought they were the same entity? I think I know why. I think I know the main difference between them, and why the Eggman could never be Gaster. Gaster is an entity at the highest level of Deltarune's reality, even being able to access and use Twitter IRL, which is deeply hilarious that that's canon. Gaster is to Lightworlders what the Lightworlders are to Darkworlders, reaching down to a reality below him, letting beings even higher up the chain like us access Deltarune through his device. All his interactions in-game come from above. He is the angel up on high, so to speak. Not that I think Gaster is the angel, but he's certainly high up on the totem pole in terms of, you get what I'm saying, right? The Eggman, I think, is the opposite. The Eggman has only appeared in either the Dark World or a Mantle-like game area. Even in his Chapter 4 area, it's Mantle-like. He is always on the lowest level of reality available at the time. Hell, in Chapter 4 there is no arcade game equivalent, and yet he's still found in a place that looks like one. And of course, the game title, Mantle, being so similar to Mantle, the Eggman seems to be intrinsically linked with Deltarune's lower layers. While Gaster reaches down the realities, I think the Eggman reaches upwards from the bottom of reality to the top. Does that mean the Eggman is some sort of devil? I have no idea. I have no idea. We have no reason to think the creatures found in the Eggman's worlds aren't alive. Why can't some of the ones in Mantle and Legend of Tenna be the same? If the Eggman is a creature from the lower levels of reality, it would entirely separate him from Gaster. Also, there's the friend connections between him and Eram, another entity that seems to operate on the lowest levels of Deltarune. They both have strange knowledge and power. In the next video, I'm going to properly explore Eram, like I'd intended to in the first place before I got caught up on this. Hopefully, you'll give some credence to the fact that there may just be a fifth layer of reality in Deltarune, just as Molly said was possible in the Amazing Device Theory series. Say that 10 times fast, Jesus. This took way longer than intended, as I did legitimately scrap my original vid on Eram once I realized I needed to actually prove what I was talking about. Hopefully next one won't take a month and change. This one was much more of a real theory than the previous. That was just uploaded as quick as possible. Missed out on a lot of stuff here too. Like, what are the actual implications of Mantler's deal with Tenna? Or did the Eggman create the Mantle game? If so, why? No, that'll be for the next one. Thanks for watching.